back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts this week, Professor Chris G, and on the other line with me is my water riding buddy. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how are you doing on this wet Saturday?
I mean, where are you that it's wet? I don't.
It's completely. Have you walked in the grass or anything? It's completely.
Hell no, I ain't walking in the grass. I ain't got no reason to walk in the grass. Hell no, that's what the sidewalk's for.
It's completely wet out there. But yeah. How are you doing on this Saturday that we have? It is March 4th that we are recording. A big day, a big weekend in sports this weekend. I'm just going to throw that out there. We got a wrestling pay-per-view. We got John Jones returning, depending on how you feel about John Jones in the UFC. It's a big weekend.
How am I doing? You know how I'm doing? I'm doing just as well as I was doing last week.
I'm sure you are. I got a monster sitting right next to me because we're doing a double recording session, and I needed one because we're definitely recording in not our normal. We normally don't do double recordings anymore because we found out that we get really, really tired doing double recordings, but we're gonna do it today.
Well, you kind of alluded to it last week. We had some things kind of come up on both of our ends.
Yep.
And it just we just weren't going to be able to make recording feasible, and we pushed it a few times. And finally, the other day, you're like, "How's your Saturday?" And I was like, "It's fine." And
yeah.
So here we are. We're knocking this last one out, and then we'll be back on our regular recording schedule, which won't affect you, our fine listener. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah. So today we are going over episode 1230, titled Riding on Laplace, which is riding on Lapras. And this week, as we told you last week, Ash's Lapras is returning from the Orange Islands, and I'm excited to go over this episode. I do like his Lapras. Even though his Lapras is the lead of the pack, his Lapras was captured in a Pokeball. And Lapras has a Pokeball, and I don't think Lapras should be out in the wild anymore. I think Lapras should have said, okay, I've been captured. I want to be trained to be the best, and should have helped Ash this whole time. But no, the Orange Islands was a small arc episode, small arcs of episodes, and he gave up his Lapras at the end of that. So how do you feel about that, Doug?
I mean, you kind of know my feelings about the way Ash kind of, not the way he treats his Pokemon, but like, he said goodbye to Butterfree, he said goodbye to Bulbasaur, he said goodbye to Squirtle,
he said goodbye to Charizard for a little bit.
He said goodbye to Charizard, He caught a bunch of Tauros that he maybe used one time,
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he kind of, we were kind of discussing at the end of last week's episode about, what kind of trainer you are in terms of what determines a Pokemon master, and, are you a completionist? Are you just about hanging banners? And Ash is very much a collector.
That's saying it lightly. Yeah.
Well, right. But, I'll give him credit.
A collector doesn't let go of his values or valuables.
Well, Well, this is also true. I mean, you could make the argument that he's kind of hamstrung by the fact he can only have six with him at a time, but
But he only keeps five.
right,
He's allergic to the number six.
allergic to the number six. It's a phobia.
It is. Because even when he has five Pokemon on his belt, he doesn't go and get one from Professor Oak. I believe we saw it when it came down to, what was it, Krabby.
Yes.
He doesn't get rid. I mean, he gets a sixth Pokemon on his belt, and what does he do? He immediately transfers it over to Professor Oak. He's like, I can't have six on my belt because if I catch another Pokemon, I won't be able to use it. Or maybe he just doesn't like the fact that if he has six on his belt, that he can't activate another Pokeball, which I think is so stupid. It is that is the because it's literally the Pokédex that stops you from doing so. Because we've seen other trainers that have like a whole big sack of Pokeballs that have a lot of Pokemon in it, and they can use their seventh Pokemon, eighth Pokemon, and they can do things like that, but it's the freaking Pokédex that stops you from having a seventh Pokemon on your belt.
Mm-hmm.
So, such a dumb concept, but
And quite frankly, couldn't you just get to a point where you can like buy expansions for the belt? I mean, if you're a good enough trainer, and specifically in relation to the game, if you do the money sheet like I think we've all done,
yeah, we all have done it.
at a certain point, how many you can only buy so many Master Balls. Couldn't you use some of that money you'll never run out of and buy belt expansions?
Yeah, I
Where
mean, they make us do it in Pokemon Go. They
right,
say you run out of storage, you could pay real life money and add more Pokemon to your belt. I mean, you can have an unlimited support, but they do it by 50. So you every time you buy a belt expansion, it increases your Pokemon load by 50 inside of your bag,
hmm.
and you got to pay $1 a piece to keep upgrading your bag. Well, $2. It's $2 because it's 200 coins. So yeah, $2 that you got to pay in order to upgrade your Pokemon storage.
Okay,
So I mean, it's not
that's
a
not awful.
no, but like I can tell you right now, and I'm not going to do the math for you. You guys out there can do the math on how much I've spent to to upgrade my Pokemon because Pokemon Go is my shit. But I'll tell you how many Pokemon I have inside of my storage thing. Let's see. Inside of my storage, I can fit 3,400 Pokemon. And right now I'm at 3,359 Pokemon in my storage spot. So
So how many can you hold without spending money? Like what's the
what's
first
the
time first time you boot up the game? How much can you hold?
let's ask Google. How many Pokemon can you hold in Pokemon Go? Let's see. By default, your item bag can hold an inventory. Let's see. No, that's item bag. Um, let's see. How many Pokemon can you store in Pokemon Go? Let's find out. Dun dun dun. So you start off. Let's see. Just like you did, Pokemon has a free storage limit of 300 Pokemon and 350 items.
So if you're up to 3,000,
And it increases by 50 each time that you do it. I spent a pretty coin on my Pokemon
yeah, you
expansion
did.
because for storage, I can hold 3,450, and I'm currently at 3,420. And Pokemon, like I said, I'm at 3,359, out of my 3,400.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and throw stones. I've spent a decent amount and tapped out.
So yeah, I mean, when you find that game that you like and it's a lifer game for you, and you dedicate yourself to it, you don't mind spending it. And it's not like the Pokemon Go has been out since what, 2016, so it's been out for like 6 years now. So this is over the span of 6 years, spending $1 here, maybe $10 here, and so I mean, in the span of things, it's not much. But I
Right.
mean, but it's a lot if you flop it all down all at once, I guess.
Well,
So
right. So, I mean, it evens out, like you said.
yes. So um if you want to be my friend, I only have a few slots left. But if you're on here and you want to be my friend in Pokemon Go and try to expand everyone's experience, because I could always use some friends for experience points, go ahead and message us on the good old Twitter page at PokeBreakdown. And if I have a slot available for you, send me your trainer code and I will add you. I'm not going to go ahead and give it out on here because then I'm just going to get bombarded by friend requests, and that's one of the most annoying things.
Well, especially if you don't have the space.
Yeah, so let's see. I can tell everyone that I mean, everyone's not going to get lucky, but I can tell you how many more friends I can have in this game, because you can have a max of 200 friends in this game, and currently I am at, which I got to get rid of a few that I got from raids, but I'm currently at 191, so I can have 9 more friends, but that can possibly go up to about 20 to 30 more friends once I get rid of a few straggling people that I don't interact with. So there could be about 30 of you out there. So go ahead and send us a message with your trainer code, and I'll go ahead and add you to the game, and we can increase each other, because I play the game daily. I'm not one of those that just plays it every now and then. I play it daily, everybody.
So if you're a straggler, look out.
Yeah, yeah. If I notice that you don't play the game and you don't send gifts, you might get booted. So if we if
Yeah.
we if we don't increase our friendship within 10 days, and you're still sitting at a 1 star, and I added you, you might end up getting the boot. But so that's just a warning, everybody. So you get one chance.
Not
So
personal, it's just business.
yeah. So, all right, everybody. I don't think we've been doing this podcast going on 3 years. I don't think I've ever really talked about adding any of our friends to my thing this whole time. I could have been done with all this.
Well, it's one of those things where unless you want it, unless you're like, and it's funny because you have talked about Pokemon Go before.
Yes.
Like in terms of like, events, it's never gotten to the point where you're like, hey, I've got spots.
Oh, well, I definitely do have spots. So, all right. Oh, and one question that I keep getting asked online for going over these, and it's been more than one, so I'm just going to go ahead and address it because I'm sure there's more of you out there. These episodes of Pokemon that we're going over, Ash's final episodes, if you look it up online, it's technically Pokemon Journeys, but it's not under a Pokemon Journeys tab. You have to, if you go to any of your sites, I'm not going to give it over the air because I don't know who's legal and who's not. But the site that we use, you have to type in Mezase, Mezase. So if you type that in to the search bar, the website that you're going to is going to tell you whether, if Pokemon pops up, you're on your site has it. If Pokemon does not pop up on once you type in that one word, you go to a different site. But
I ain't got it.
yeah, they don't have it. So type that word in, and you can follow us as we're going through these episodes. Or if you want to go ahead, if you're listening to this on the free feed and you want to go ahead and watch the other episodes, because by the time that you're listening to this on the free feed, all of these are done. So again, it's Mezase, Mezase. Just type that one word in. That's how it's going to come up on these websites because that's what it's being called in Japanese. It's being called, let's see. Dun, dun, dun. It is being called Pocket Monsters Mezase Pokemon Master, is what it's called. So go ahead and look it up that way, and that's what's. But other than that, there's a few Pokemon in this episode. I have the Pokemon list here as to who's in this episode, so we don't get confused. If you have any questions, Doug, with the mini water Pokemon that we're going to come across in this episode, I will help you out. So are you ready to jump on into this episode, bro?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's go ahead and do it. So, as soon as we jump right on into this episode, everybody, we are approached by three Whelmers. And these are some funny looking Whelmers, but they are happy. They are jumping up and down. And Pikachu is like, oh my gosh, look at these Whelmers. And they're not in the water, everybody. They are on the land. And Ash is like, oh man, it's like they're balls because they're just bouncing right in front of them. And Brock comes in and he's like, when Whelmers fill their bodies with water, they can bounce around like that. And he's like, Waylord watching may be famous, but Welmer watching, but so is Welmer watching. So they're watching the Welmers jump up and down. Pikachu jumped on one of the Welmers' backs and is just bouncing along with the Welmers. And Ash is like, good going, Pikachu. And Pikachu's like, Pika! Pika! And all of a sudden you hear a cry in the background, and Pikachu's like, oh, what's that? And it kind of flops off of one of the Welmer's backs. And you hear, ah, wah! And Ash is like, what is that? And you see a Lapras just crying, and it's coming up to the shore. And Pikachu is like, hey, it's Lapras. And Ash is like, is that a Lapras? And Misty is like, it looks kind of panicked, doesn't it? And Brock's like, yeah, it really does. And Lapras is like, and then it looks down and it sees Ash, Misty, Brock, and Pikachu. And Pikachu is like, hey, Lapras. And Ash is like, wait a minute, no way. He's like, are you the one that I met in the Orange Islands? And he just runs over and gives Lapras a big old hug. And you could tell Lapras is grown. It's not a baby anymore. So that shows how much time has passed, because Lapras is a full grown Lapras now, even though it wasn't small back then, but you can definitely tell the difference in size right now. And Ash is like, man, I knew it. He's like, have you been doing good, Lapras? Pikachu goes and gives it a hug. And Misty's like, amazing. Is that his Lapras? And Brock is like, so it was migrating through this area, huh? And Lapras is giving Ash a hug still and just looks over. And Ash is like, what's wrong, Lapras? And Lapras turns around and just looks far into the distance in the water and is like, I need you to come with me. And it nods his head. And Missy's like, I think it wants us to come with it. And Lapras is like, yes, get on my back. Come with me. And Ash is like, all right, I got it. It'll be just like old times. And we go right into the title sequence. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. And just like usual, bro, I'm going to go ahead and hand this on over to you once we're past the title sequence.
So we cut back into the episode, and Lapras is leading the charge of Whalmers, and Pikachu's on its head, just kind of hanging on, and we're going through the water, and we come up on a little island with like a cave, and Ash is like, "Is that where we're heading, Lapras?" And Lapras is like, "Bet." And
is that what Lapras said, bro?
Exactly what they said. And they're on the island, and the Whalmer are kind of hanging around, and like, this is an interesting island, and it has caves and holes all over it and everything. And Fox says this must be a result of many years of erosion from the seawater. And you see there's like a bunch of Whalmer in the water kind of watching on. And we see a bunch of other water Pokemon, Tentacruel. What's the Manatee Pokemon?
That is a Mantine Pokemon.
Mantine. See, I was fucking close. Yes. And they're all kind of looking like they're distressed. And Ash is kind of looking around, and he sees a few others, and they've all kind of got the same like look on their face. And Ash is like, "What the heck's going on with everyone?" And he looks at Lapras, and Lapras looks up. So naturally, everybody else looks up.
I love the look on their face.
we just from context, we can see all the way up, right above the main opening of the first cave you see when you get on the island. We can see what looks to be a Whalmer stuck all the way up there. And yeah, like you said, we cut back to the group at 4:28, and they're all kind of squinting with this mixture of, is that what I think it is? And how the fuck did it get where it is? And I mean, they've all got it. Brock, or Pikachu, Misty, Ash. Brock doesn't really have it because Brock's never really been an open eye fella.
He's already squinting.
And so we cut to the Whalmer that's stuck, and Ash is getting up there, and he looks, and the Whalmer's looking kind of pained and kind of embarrassed, but it's still kind of got the smile on its face. But I think the smile is kind of default. I don't think it can help it.
Yep.
But the look on its face is almost like it's saying to Ash, if I could tell you the story, I fucking would, because it's fucking crazy.
That's exactly what he's saying.
And he turns around and he goes, "It's a Whalmer." And like, it's a Whalmer inside a hole. And Misty kind of looks at Lapras and is like, "Is this what you were trying to warn us?" Or no, Brock says, "Is this what you were warning us about?" And Lapras kind of looks at Brock like, "Yeah." And a couple other Whalmers are bouncing. They're like, once again, if we could explain how he did it, we would, because it's a story. And
we're going to find that story out later.
And they're kind of sitting there and they're like, it probably got itself stuck by doing all the bouncing like y'all are doing. And Ash is like, "Hey, Lapras, thanks for the heads up." And and he's like, "You can leave this to us. We'll handle it from here." And Pikachu's like, "Bet." And Misty has a very random line of, people in Pokemon have to work together in times like these.
Oh,
well,
you don't say, Misty.
and Lapras kind of looks up like, okay, how are they gonna get my buddy out of this one? And Ash kind of gets on one knee and he's talking to the Whalmer. He's like, I'm gonna get you out of here. And Emmer's like, well, I would very much appreciate it because this is uncomfortable. And this is probably the earliest, I mean, not counting the first episode, obviously. This is probably the earliest we've seen Latias.
Yes, just floating in the air.
Resulting episodes, and even the spirit of Latias is kind of looking on like, how the fuck did that Whalmer get stuck like that? And we go from there to the good old Magikarp submarine, and we see Team Rocket's looking on, and they're like, oh ho!
So yeah, Team Rocket is quietly coming up, and they're swimming towards the shore, and they're like, oh, there's a Brat Boy, there's a whole bunch of Whalmer. And well, at first they don't even see Ash. They're like, oh, there's a bunch of Whalmer over here. Let's go ahead and try to catch these Whalmer. And they're like, oh, what's Brat Boy doing over here? And they're like, oh, we can capture Pikachu and these Whalmer. Oh, this is going to be great for all of us. And it's from there that they start pedaling slowly. In the midst of that, we saw Ash being Ash. I don't know what he was thinking, but he was trying to pull this Whalmer out by his hands. And just he's like, I'm gonna muscle you out, but no, that it doesn't work like that. So
no, because once again, we still have to cover 22 minutes or whatever.
Exactly. So Ash is like, man, no good. We'll just have to break this rock. And Whalmer's sitting there and is like, oh no, break the rock. He's like, don't worry, you can leave it to me. And Ash sends out his Kingler. And then he sends out his Sirfetch'd, and I love his Sirfetch'd. His Sirfetch'd is like that's a G Pokemon right there. I love it.
And it looks awesome.
Yeah, it's the evolved form of Farfetch'd. Just perfect. I just love it. And in Pokemon Go, you have to get it a certain way by walking with your Farfetch'd and doing adventures and just different things like that in the game. So
like the trainer we met with the Farfetch'd.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
So and
as long as you're not stealing other people's phones.
Yes, facts. So Ash looks down at Pikachu, and Pikachu is just dead tired. I don't know what Pikachu was doing before all of this, but Pikachu didn't get enough sleep last night to be trying to pull a Whalmer out of a hole.
No.
But Ash looks over at Pikachu and is like, Pikachu, all right, I need you. And Pikachu, out of nowhere, is like, I don't got school tomorrow. And jumps right up and shows his muscles and is like, all right, I'm ready. Let's do this. And Ash is like, okay, let's do this in a single blow, everybody. Get it? Single blow, because it's a well Pokemon.
Oh, I didn't even put that together. Son of a bitch.
So Ash is like, all right, Kingler, use your crab hammer. Sirfetch'd, I need you to use your brutal swing. And Pikachu, use your iron tail. And they all three use it at the exact same time. And as soon as they use it and they hit the ground kind of vibrates. And then all three Pokemon, including Ash, goes flying back off of the top, and they just get blown back. You see Sirfetch'd lands right on top of its shield and starts riding its shield because it's a badass, and I fucking love you, Sirfetch'd. And Sirfetch'd and Kingler is like, all right, that was a nice wash. And Pikachu comes back climbing onto the rock and is shaking itself off. just like my dog was doing when I had to give her a bath. They made me so mad. I had just gave this dog a bath, and right in my face, it's like shake, 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 shake. I was like, oh no! So I was like, stop it. I was like, you couldn't wait until I walked away. but but Brock and Misty look on, and so does Lapras. And Misty is like, "Where'd Ash go?" And we look up and we see a hole, and we see that Ash has dropped down into a hole and has landed on top of a rock, just butt up, just in a very weird position for them to draw Ash in. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't get it, but I mean, they could have just
Second episode in a row, he's landed in a hole.
yeah. And Ash looks back and he's like, "Oh, I'm fine, guys." And we get a big blast from the inside, and then we see Heracross. He has his Heracross with him, everybody. And so
it's like they spun a wheel, and it's like, what Pokemon are we going to put with Ash this episode?
yeah, so this episode, if you guys are keeping track, he has his Pikachu, his Kingler, his Heracross, and his Surfetch. So actually, he actually has 6 Pokemon in this episode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is the first episode. Because I mean, where he's going to show some more of his Pokemon later on. This is the first episode he actually has all 6 Pokemon on his belt, bro.
They heard us bitching.
Yeah, they did. And Heracross is bringing Ash up and flying him out of the little hole. And Brock just gets down to one knee and he's like, "Man, this rock is pretty tough." And he's taking a rock and he's trying to break it. And Welmer is over here crying because it's scared. And Heracross is flying Ash back up to where the Welmer is. And he's like, and Ash is like, "Sorry, I scared you like that." And Wilmer's like, "Welmer." And Ash is like, "Man, you are a huge help, Heracross. Thank you very much." Heracross drops him down. And I feel like I've been talking for a while. So, bro, I'm going to hand this part over to you.
So Ash looks back down at Lapras and goes, "We're not going to give up, Lapras." And Lapras is like, I picked the wrong people. And Brock's like, "We should think of a different method because obviously that didn't work." And Misty's like, "Aha, IQ." And Pikachu's like, "What the hell you mean you're going to do?" And she's like, "We're going to fish him out." And she's showing off her little lure with her own little, Ash is like, "Well, I have my fishing rod and my silent lure." And he throws out his bay leaf, which, boy, if that's not a throwback.
Yeah, for real, right?
I'm telling you. And, thankfully they kept up with the can, and the bay leaf is absolutely in love with Ash. He's like, "We'll play later. Right now we've got some stuff we got to do. Or, right now I need your help." And she's like, he tells Bayleaf to use Vine Whip to hold Misty. And Bayleaf's like, "Bet." And
I'll do anything for you, Ash.
And she wraps her Vine Whip around and gets behind Misty. And Ash looks back at his Heracross. He goes, "Heracross, hold me in place, please." And Heracross is like, "All right." And Misty's like, "Oh, now I understand the plan. Good looking out, Bailey." And Ash looks back at Whalmer and he's determined. He's like, "Now, seriously, now we're gonna get you out of there." And Whalmer's like, "I've heard that before." And using all their strength, Misty and Ash cast their rods, and Whalmer takes them both in, and
he's like, "This is a bad idea. I feel it, right? I feel it in my bones. This is a bad idea."
and using Heracross and Bayleaf as I guess like boards. I guess they're Misty and Ash are pulling back with all their strength, and you can kind of see that Whalmer's kind of given a little bit, but nothing crazy. And Pikachu's like cheering him on, but he's kind of in a bad spot. If Whalmer gets out, he's kind of going to crush him.
Yep.
And you can kind of see that it's kind of straining on Whalmer because he's kind of got like a focus line across his eyes, and the other Pokemon are looking on. Got a couple Whalmers bouncing. Lapras isn't blinking. We got Surfetched and Kingler are still kind of doing their work on the sides. While Kingler
goes right behind Heracross and is like, "You ain't going nowhere, Heracross."
Yeah, he's more. Kingler is more of a brace with Heracross for Ash, whereas Surfetched is kind of using his Leak Sword as like a lever.
Yes, to try to pry him out of there.
And Brock's like, all right. He calls out his. Okay, my first thought was Mudkip, but I was like, that's not it.
No. That's Marshstop.
Marshstop. He calls out his Marshstop to go and get a hold of Bayleaf, kind of like the way Kingler is with Heracross and Ash. And Mudstop kind of looks at Misty and is like, teamwork. And Misty looks over at Ash and goes, all right, we're going to go on 3, 2, 1. And I wish they would have had a discussion of, okay, is that 3, 2, 1 go? Is that go on 1?
That would have been funny because most cartoons do that. They're like, okay,
Yes.
do we go on 1, or do you say go after? That would have been a funny line, and it's not like they would have really had to throw too much into it.
And it's not like they didn't have a little bit extra time, but
for real.
So they do the countdown. They're like 3, 2, 1, and they're pulling with all their might. And Pikachu's dancing, which he's still in a bad spot. And all of a sudden, Whalmer just goes boom, and he just. And if you ask me to do that again, I'm not going to do it. And he just goes up, straight up in the air, and he eclipses the sun. You know, it's a whale, and.
Yes.
Ash is like, we did it. He's out. And Misty says he's out. And Brock's like, success. And everybody's cheering. And the couple Whalmers are still bouncing. And Lapras is like, is that thing going to come down? Because it's been up there a minute. And Pikachu's like, look at that fucking Whalmer go. And, you know, they're still looking on. And,
I was about to say, we get another glimpse of Latias. This episode was just filled with Latias.
Yeah, they're making no secrets of her now. She's just part of the scenery.
Yep.
And even Latias is like, look at that shit. And she's kind of following. And then all of a sudden we see that the Whalmer falls directly in and it lands. And we're like, son of a bitch, he fell in the hole. And all of a sudden, it starts to evolve.
Oh, man, I was dying. I knew it as soon as it fell into this hole. I was like, they're going to do it. They're going to fucking do it.
And you got to help me because I knew it evolved. I didn't, and I should have looked at Bulbapedia.
It's a Wailord.
A Wailord. And immediately Brock, Misty, and Ash are like, son of a bitch. And,
and he had a dumb look on his face, too, after he evolved. He's like, oh, fuck.
Then we get the commercial break for the Who's That Pokemon, and we see a close-up of what looks like a shell. And then we pan out and we find out that the Who's That Pokemon this week is Lapras.
Yes. And when we come back from commercial break, Ash was like, "Man, I was so happy that we got it out of that hole, but now it flopped back in, and now it's a Waylord." He's like, "What awful time?" Or no, Brock is like, "What else can I say but awful timing?" And everybody's looking on. Even we get another glimpse of Latias and Like I said, they're really showing Latias in this episode.
Yes.
So Latias is looking on, and Waylord is in the water or in the hole, and it's just like, oh no, I'm stuck again. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. And Ash is like, what can we do? And Pikachu looks over and sees Team Rocket's telescope coming out of the submarine in the water. And Ash is like, "Yeah, well, we fished up Whalmer, but that won't cut it for this Wailord." And he's like, "We need more manpower." And Pikachu looks back over at Team Rocket and is like, I know exactly who's in the water watching us right now. Bet." And Wailord is still screaming and it's just in so much pain and it's scared, and Team Rocket's looking on. They're like, "Oh, that's perfect. While they're distracted, we can snatch Pikachu up real quick." What? They're like, "Oh no!" And Wobbuffet jumps up. He's like, "Oh no!" And Pikachu's like, "I see you," looking right through the telescope. The Magikarp submarine comes right up, and Team Rocket comes out. It's like, "Pikachu, you're ours now." And they're like, "We'll catch Pikachu right now." And Pikachu's like, "No, no, I need your help." And Meowth is like, "Wait a minute, Pikachu's talking to us. Pikachu's saying that it needs our help." And James is like, "Wait, what is it saying?" And Jesse's like, "What nerve of you, Pikachu?" And Pikachu, or no, she's like, "There's no way I'm going to take orders from the enemy like you." And Pikachu just starts letting out just little statics of electricity. And with them still being in the water, it just shocks them all to put their arms up. And after they put their arms up, they're like, "Oh, you know what? I'm suddenly in the mood to follow all of your orders, Pikachu." And Marstop is looking on from a distance, and Meowth is like, "Yeah, I'm here to help you, Pikachu." And Pikachu's like, "Yeah, that's what I thought. Now I'm going to hand this part back over to you, my brother."
And before we go back over to the situation, Marstop kind of gets this look on his face like, all right. And we see from we're on a shot of Misty, Ash, and Brock, and Misty's like, "Can we really trust them?" And Pikachu's like, "Oh, don't worry, I've worked them into shape." And Meowth's like, "Well, we made a vow with." He says, "Mr. Pikachu." I didn't catch that the first time. So we made a vow with Mr. Pikachu, and Team Rocket kind of nods. They're like, "Yep, that's what happened. That's sure enough." And
We definitely made a vow with Pikachu.
and Brock's like, "Well, we really don't have a choice right now. We shouldn't be looking a gift Meowth in the mouth," which is a very obviously the saying is look a gift horse, but it's Meowth in the mouth, just especially when you're stuffed up. And and they're kind of like, "Well, I suppose you're right," and they, "Well, we agree," um, and they're like, "Well, and your little machine will be a good source of power to help pull the Wailord out," and you kind of have this flash of um, I don't know, realization, whatever, and Jesse's like, "Oh, power," he says. And
They
he was
need
like,
well the line was manpower, and since she's a woman,
oh yeah, oh okay, I didn't catch that. Good looking out.
yeah, she's like, oh, manpower, huh?
Like, well, it's actually human powered. And Meow's like, talk about the sin of ignorance. And Ash kind of looks over at Pikachu, is like, good work recruiting them. And and Jesse's like, look at that. After he threatened us, he's getting all this love and shit. And Meowth has the nerve to say, what a schemer. Like, that's not his, 99% of his existence. And James is like, honestly, if you think about it, he's more evil than we are. And Boba Fett's like, I'm just happy to be out of that submarine. And Pikachu's like, what's that? You talking shit? And he kind of sparks his cheeks a little bit. And Jesse and James and Meow, no, we're just happy to be enjoying the fresh air. We're going to help the innocent Pokemon. Everything's hunky dory.
Yeah, we're not angry at all. What was that you said?
So then we have Ash calling out his
A Torterra.
See, that's probably much easier than the Japanese translation. No offense.
It really is.
So, he tells Brock to be, kind of work in partnership with Torterra, and Brock's like, all right, but what are you gonna do? He's like, so here's my plan, and I like the way he did this because he could have easily explained it, and then they flashed to the present time, and it actually hasn't started yet. But as he's explaining the plan, it's actually happening.
Yes. So the plan that Ash has is that he's like, first, me, Heracross, and Bayleaf are going to get close to Waylord. And he's like, from inside of the cave. And then you see Bayleaf climbing down, and Heracross is carrying Ash. And he's like, and then Torterra is going to use Hard Plant from on top of Team Rocket's submarine. And you see Torterra use Hard Plant, which is a move where it takes its big roots and it wraps it right around Waylord. And then from here, Misty is going to give the orders to everyone on land. And you see that Misty is being surrounded by Sirfetch'd, Marshtomp, Kingler, and then she throws out her Gyarados. So she has a Gyarados, everybody.
Okay, so that is her Gyarados. I wasn't sure if that was just a wild Gyarados that was just helping the cause.
No, that's her Gyarados. Okay. And then she's like, Team Rocket, you get the Mega Magikarp submarine moving. So Team Rocket has to do the human power and actually steer the Magikarp back, so they're pulling Waylord out of the hole. And he's like, the Waylord and not Waylord, the Whelmer is going to help support you, Team Rocket, by attaching themselves to your submarine and helping you pull. And at this point, he's like, then Lapras and everyone in the water, and you see the Mantike, Tentacruel, Lapras, Tentacool, and a few more water Pokemon that are in there, and are going to pull on the root from Torterra so they can pull Waylord out of the hole. And you just see them just pulling and pulling and pulling, and Pikachu is just being a support helper inside of the submarine because Pikachu is inside just going, all right, Team Rocket, pull. And Jesse screaming out, to rescue the trapped Waylord, to live up to expectations, James goes. And Jesse's like, giving the full power of truth and love. They're going through their motto, if you don't catch my drift,
Yeah.
everybody. And James is like, we're the loving, charming help this week. And Jesse's like, Jesse, James, the Team Rocket duo crosses the seas. Like a whirlpool whirling waves awaits us. And Meowth is like, just kidding, meow. And Wobbuffet's like, Wobbuffet, I'm here to support as well. And we jump back to the Welmer tugging along on the Magikarp. Brock isn't doing anything. He's just holding on to the back of the Magikarp and not falling off, just trying to look like a badass here. I notice he ain't really doing much.
Kind of
And
extra weight if you think about it.
a little bit. So, Doug, I'm going to hand this part right back on over to you, my brother.
So Misty is kind of supervising the pulling of the root, and she's like, "All right, keep it up, everyone." And see the Wailord is kind of struggling, and Ash is down there with Heracross and Bayleaf. He's like, "It started moving." And he looks at Bayleaf and Heracross. It's like, time for us to start. And tells Bayleaf to use Vine Whip and Heracross to use Megahorn. And he says, go all out. And they start tickling the Wailord. And
tickle, 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 tickle is what the subtitles say on here.
And Wailord is like, this is inconvenient. And he's trying to like help his own cause by getting free. And she's like, it's working. And Brock's like, please work. And and like you said just a minute ago, what's Brock really doing other than hanging on trying to act like Jack Sparrow? And you see Lapras is pulling the root, and we see the tickle is still happening, and Pikachu's watching Wailord from the camera in the submarine, and Jesse's like, looks like this is super effective. And James is like, all right, full power now. And Meowth calls for Turbo Boost. And if they could have used Turbo Boost, anyway.
Why didn't they use it to start with?
And Wobbuffet's like, I bet. And what is that?
What is what?
What just drops down from the ceiling here? Is that hot sauce? Is it like a 5-hour energy? It's got a Blaziken on it. It's hot sauce because as soon as they drink it, they're like, Baha! And they start just going in absolute hyperdrive. And we get split screens. And we get 4 separate split screens of everybody doing work. And Wailord is about to lose his shit. And for a second, I was like, don't tell me that motherfucker's evolving again. And Misty's like, what's going on? And Brock's like, heavy bomber. And I'm like, what's a heavy bomber? And it's a big white light envelops the whole screen. And then all of a sudden, it's like the scene out of Free Willy. Because Wailord is just, and he just, and all the Pokemon in the water are like, this is about to be some shit. And Misty can see the wave approaching, and she's like, block the wave, Gyarados. And Gyarados is like, bet. And Brock's like, all right. He's like, all right, Torterra, get ready to jump. And Torterra's like, I'll be fine. You're the one who's gonna. And Jesse's like, all right, it's time to get out of here. And
yeah, time to get out of here. We'll catch Pikachu another day.
And Meowth's like, it couldn't be. And Wobbuffet's kind of. Then we see that Pikachu is still hanging onto the ladder of the submarine, and he jumps out and lands in Brock's arms. And he's like, all right, Torterra now. And Torterra just jumps off.
Okay, I have
And
a problem with this.
I
So,
have many problems.
okay, so I'm going to kind of break this down a bit. So, Team Rocket just helped these guys, right?
Correct.
Pikachu is an asshole. I don't know if you noticed, but right before Pikachu jumped off into Brock's arms, it electrocuted the hatch that closes the submarine. So what happened was it shocked off the hatch, and the hatch goes flying into the water. And Brock and Totera and Pikachu jump off of the submarine, and when they jumped off, they pushed the submarine down. When the submarine went into the water got inside of the submarine, sending it whirling down to the bottom of the ocean with Team
Hmm.
Rocket in there.
Yes, because
What assholes? They could have killed him.
they could have killed him, but it's a kid's show. They wouldn't kill him.
I know, but even Team Rocket's like, this is an awful feeling.
Yeah, and they sink to the bottom, and we cut back, and once again we're looking around, and they're like, "All right, Wailord's out of the hole.
Where's Ash?
So where's Ash?" And um, you know, and we look at where Wailord came from, and Lapras is looking up there. It's like, yeah, where did he go? And Pikachu's like, higher vantage point, and we cut back, and we see that Ash has been using Heracross as like a plane. He's like, it's no good. Everything's completely blocked, and
The water level is raising.
yeah, we see that the water's raising, and Ash is like, well, Bailey, if you did your part, you can return. And um, he and Ash is kind of sitting there, and he's thinking to himself, he's like, what other way is there? And he's kind of floating along with Heracross, and Brock,
They start searching the cave for another exit.
and we go back to the outside of the cave, and Brock looks behind him and goes, the tide is rising.
Yes,
He's like, oh shit.
because Waylord is back into the water, so now the water is rising up.
And Misty's kind of got this panic look on her face, and she's like, we better rescue them quick. And Brock's like, well, if we knew how to do that. And Lapras kind of goes under the water and goes up to Wailord. Is like, hey, you were kind of the cause of this. Come help me. And Wailord's kind of like, you right. And everybody's kind of looking on, and they come up to the entrance of the cave, and Lapras uses Ice Beam to kind of ice over the water to stop it from flowing out and raising the tide level. And Ash is like, this is different. And Heracross lets him down, and he returns Heracross to his Pokeball. And he's kind of standing there, and he's like, I wonder if that was Lapras. And
No,
Lapras,
I wonder.
Lapras gets out of the way, and Wailord uses
It looked like a version of Hyper Beam, is what I'm guessing.
And apparently, according to Brock, it's called Weather Ball. Which okay. Ash kind of watches as the ball kind of creates a path under the ice, like a tunnel. And Lapras is like, now this is where I go. Shoots herself into the tunnel, and Ash is kind of sitting there with his thumb up his butt, and all of a sudden he sees Lapras, and Lapras collides back, or collides in rather. He goes, Lapras, you come back for me. It's like, no shit, this is kind of your show.
for the next few episodes, at least.
And Lapras is like, all right, this is the part where you get on now. And Ash is like, all right, bet, thanks. And
I'm sorry, that looked like such a cool ride. Like, I would love to have Lapras freeze some water, go underneath, and just have me ride her like a ride. Just it was so cool because he was literally like surfing on ice underneath the ice and then shoots right back up onto the land. That was so cool.
I don't know. I think I'd be afraid of getting stuck.
No, well, Waylor knows how big you are.
Well, that's true. So we basically cut back, and Ash and Wailord, or not Ash, Pikachu and Wailord are kind of looking on, and all of a sudden Pikachu's ears start twitching. It's like, he's coming out of there. And we see Lapras and Ash use the ramp as a launching off point. And Ash is like, this is good shit.
He was so happy.
He gets off of Lapras. He's like, thank you so much. And Lapras is like, of course. And Pikachu jumps into Ash's arms and he apologizes. He's like, sorry for worrying you, Pikachu. And
Wailor comes jumping up and does his little spring of water. And it's like, I help too.
And Brock and Misty kind of have to come up and is like, Wailor did help as well. And Brock's like, it made the tunnel in the ice. And Ash turns around and is like, good shit, Wailord.
Wailord's like, you're welcome. This is such a happy Wailord, by the way. Such a happy.
Said, little tiny sprig of water, and we get a little rainbow, and then we see Latias
flying around the little rainbow that's coming up from the water.
And it wouldn't be an Ash Ketchum episode if we didn't get a goodbye scene, and we're saying goodbye to Lapras, and watch out for yourself. And as they're saying their goodbyes, they're like, look, Lapras is heard.
Yep.
And like they're here to pick you up, and Ash is like, damn right, my Latias is a leader.
Yep, and, it's not a follower anymore, because wasn't it the oddball out back in the Orange Islands, and it was kind of a follower?
It was very much the runt, yeah.
Yeah, and it went from the runt to being the leader of the pack. So that's right. Pretty cool.
Progression.
Yes.
And Misty's kind of summing everything up, and she's like, I bet you saw how Wailmer was in trouble and he couldn't abandon it. And Ash is like, Brock's like, doesn't it remind you of someone? And Ash kind of turns around like, what do you mean? And he goes, and Misty's like, he doesn't even get it. So she can't help but dunk on the poor kid.
I know. Oh, and this is where we get the joke of the episode. Can I say the joke? Can I say the joke?
Yeah, go ahead. The whole episode's been leading up to this. Like, literally, as they're saying goodbye, and the narrator's summing up, and the camera is panning up, and what kind of adventure is going to await them next?
And then Misty, Brock, we get little squares of Misty, Brock, Pikachu, Ash, and back with Wailmer at the beginning of the episode. And Misty's like, couldn't we have saved Wailmer by just catching him in a Pokeball and then releasing him? And Ash is like, yeah, that's fine. But you know what? We have fun today. And Peach is like, yeah, Pika. And Misty is like, well, I guess. And then we get the to be continued. And then the end of this episode, I've never seen this ending before, but I have to chalk it up to this is the Orange Islands goodbye or not goodbye,
Yes.
outro that they would do every single week.
Right.
So if you want to take a look at it, we told you at the beginning, just type in Masase on the website that you are looking to watch this episode on. But fast forwarding from this, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but next week's episode revolves around Bandit. So we got Bandit coming back. So that's it. What did you think of this episode, bro? And what would you rate it?
This episode, see, last week I gave it a 3.5. This episode was a little more entertaining, but less happened, if that makes sense.
No, you're not wrong.
So I think I'd be comfortable giving this episode a 3.
Okay, a 3.
I mean, I really liked it, but like when you get down to it, it was very much singularly focused, which I do like, but nothing really happened at the same time.
You're not wrong.
Like we saw a wild Walmer evolve because it stuck itself, and as we alluded to, Misty kind of invalidated the whole episode, going, couldn't we have saved like the whole day if one of us would have just caught the thing?
Yup. So
Which is a funny joke, but it kind of smacks you in the face as a viewer.
it does, but it's a kids show, and we were all thinking it. And spoiler, I said it at the beginning, not even realizing the joke at the end of the episode. And I was like, that was my whole thought this whole episode. Like they could have saved so much time. So yeah,
Yes.
I'll give it a 3 as well. It was a decent episode, so I'm not gonna sit here and say it was a bad episode. But other than that, we've been recording for a while, Doug, and normally we'll stay on for a little bit longer, but I know just like me, you're tired, I'm tired. Let's go ahead and say goodbye, Doug.
Bye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you we will see you next week for another Final Ash episode. Have a good night, everybody.